No cables or connections, no drivers, no vendor supplied software required, and no communication between the hardware wallet and the vendor itself. Open source software, open source hardware, very close to the functionality of a cold card, but a lot more user friendly. That is a big achievement. In this video, I'm just going to be looking at the Cobo Vault Pro. That is the new lower cost version of the Cobo Vault that was just released a few months ago. It's a really interesting mix. Good device for newbies, as well as some key things in there that would be just fantastic for any enthusiast or power user. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop. Content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So this video is going to have a few key parts, and you might want to skip to what interests you. There'll be sort of chapter markers in the description, and I believe in sort of the navigation bar at the bottom of the video. So basically at the beginning, we'll just run through a real quick unboxing, sort of in fast-forwarded mode, initial setup of the device, and my first impressions of it. And then at the end, sort of have my summary thoughts after having played around with the device for a couple of weeks, having really thought about it, and just sort of asking the question: who is this device for? What are some of the strengths? What are some of the weaknesses? And so on. One thing I'm not going to do in this video is an in-depth review of, feature by feature listing of what this device can do, sort of spreadsheet style. And if you want to see that, I've got a full spreadsheet over on my website where you can see sort of the summary and then click through onto the Google Doc for the full breakdown feature by feature. All right, so what I've got here is the Cobo Vault that was kindly sent to me by Cobo, and bravely I'll add, because my review criteria are pretty transparent on my website. And this is actually sort of the second generation device that Cobo have made. I haven't opened this up yet, and honestly, the unboxing isn't going to be the major substance of this review, so we'll just sort of speed through that. Oh yeah. So this is the Cobo Vault. It's a fairly well-constructed solid unit, and the thing you'll notice with this one actually is that it takes AAA battery rather than having some sort of enclosed lithium battery. It's also got the micro SD slot and the terminals for the battery, and here on the back we've got a camera and a fingerprint scanner, so that's all very good. Good to see that the Cobo Vault use a full 24-word recovery seed by default. The instructions on there are pretty good too. So this is a lithium battery as well that it comes with, and it's got a USB-C adapter, and the charger is actually on the battery itself. So it's really interesting to note that this actually has no physical I/O on it at all, except for the micro SD card slot. Okay, there you go. So that's everything that comes in the box. So what I'll just quickly do actually is just plug this battery in to start charging, because we're going to need that in a minute. Now, I'll just quickly talk about something that I love already, and that is this AAA battery holder. In that, something a lot of people don't think about is that wallets that come with an enclosed lithium battery, that is something like a Safepal or a Ledger Nano X, actually have a kind of fixed lifetime, in that the lithium battery in there will eventually fail, regardless of how much you do or don't use it. And the same is true for any device, whether it's an Ellipal or anything else like that has a battery in it. So this is why I always suggest that people don't store their hardware wallet long term, because frankly, these ones, especially ones with batteries in them, aren't designed for long-term storage, whereas Cobo have actually thought this one through and made it so that you can not only use batteries that will be easily available probably in 10 or 20 years time, just AAAs, even when the lithium battery may have failed and replacements might not be available, but you can actually take it out. So if you were going to do something like put your hardware wallet in a safe deposit box, you would store it without the battery. In my previous work as a control systems engineer, I was often working on systems that were 30 plus years old, and just simple things like being able to get batteries that would go in some of these devices was non-trivial. So I love the fact that someone's actually thought this through in at Cobo, in terms of asking the question of, will this device have some useful function in 10 years time? I love that. The other thing that's really neat from a design and paranoia sort of perspective is that you'll actually notice that where they've put the charge socket on the battery means that you can't physically connect it while the battery is charging. So there's actually no possible way that you can ever have a direct interface between this device and your computer, which again, I think is just fantastic. Because even the cold card can be used using a micro USB port, whereas with this Cobo device, it's not possible to connect that to a computer at all. Cold card were definitely the ones who'd set the benchmark for paranoia, but I think this Cobo Vault has definitely had a lot of thought put into it, particularly in that way. All right, so the battery is just magnetic, just clips on, and let's wake this thing up. Looks like a classic Android startup screen, so I'm guessing this is Android with a secure element in it that they've said. Yeah, this is definitely Android. So we'll just say English. It's got the serial number, firmware version, app version, next. It's running a self-verification. Please visit this website. Unlike a Trezor or a Keep Key, devices like this and ledgers and even the Safepal allow you to check the genuineness of the device online with the manufacturer. I actually think it's really worth pointing out at this point you can skip the verification if you don't want your device calling home to Cobo at all. You can actually skip this step entirely, which is very cool. So, but let's just verify it anyway. So we are going to scan the QR code and we're going to say authenticate. Oh, that's interesting. Please update. I should have paid attention to what firmware I had. But anyway, let's see if this works. So I'm going to scan this code on the screen of my phone. And there is the device authentication code. Authenticated. There you go. So again, if you are wanting to go full foil hat mode, you might want to skip this step because again, you are essentially telling Cobo that you've received the device. And we'll just say success. Password must contain 10 characters, include upper and lower case letters and digits. Okay, there we go. Thanks for choosing. Touch. Create Vault to generate a new Vault. Touch Vault import to import an existing HD wallet. Well, for the purpose of this video, we'll just go through and just create a Vault for the first time. Good instructions and a nice upsell for a Cobo tablet. I've actually done a review of that. Oh, this is great. This is great. This is really good. I love the warnings, and I love this too. Please check your surroundings. Make sure there are no onlookers or cameras to record your phrase. This is great. I understand. All right, and that's the recovery phrase, which is good. So full 24-word seed. Please confirm your recovery phrase is the only way. If it's lost, it's unrecoverable. Will not be displayed again. Yes. I love this. I love that they've gone with the full 24-word phrase, and I love that they've made you verify the whole thing. Other vendors skip this, and they often say it's for user experience reasons, but honestly, this is not a corner you can afford to be cutting, so I'm really impressed that they've gone with the full-length phrase, and you have to verify the whole thing. A whole bunch of cryptocurrencies. Let's just go with ones that I've got tip amounts for that I can test. Now what? Ah, right. Okay, these are these dynamic QR codes. All right, this is their app here, so let's just install that. That's interesting. So the app allows you to use a hardware wallet or just a HD wallet. So if you want to have a look at their UI, you can do that. So let's bind, follow the steps, scan the QR code. All right, let's do it. Alright, so here we are in the Cobo app. This is what you see by default, and unsurprisingly it's a Chinese device, so it's all in yuan. We'll just change that back to USD. There we go. And now we've got all our assets. So let's see, if I hit receive, what happens? I like the warning here. This is for Bitcoin. Other cryptocurrencies set to the above address will be lost. Though it is important to say at this point, it doesn't force you to verify the receive address on the device. So let's see. So what happens if we add additional Bitcoin? No, so it's a one account device. So we've got Bitcoin, so we've got one address, but oh yeah, that's fair enough. So we can actually just click through and view it on the device as well. The question is, can we generate additional receive addresses on device? Oh yes, we can. This is a massive shortfall actually of the Safepal in that it will only display like the next 10 addresses on the screen of the device and won't show you more until you've signed and sent a transaction that allows the device to know that you've moved further through the account in terms of indexing the addresses. So this is nice. So we can actually just add a bunch more addresses. And we can see on here, if we look at Ian Coleman's tool, that this is just using the P2SH SegWit by default, and it's just using the default derivation paths that everyone, it's using essentially the standard derivation paths, which is great. And the cool thing is actually that these addresses are all the same ones that will appear in the wallet as well, but you can generate them independently of each other. And because this is a hierarchical deterministic wallet, they will stay in sync. And if you want to know how HD wallets work, I've got a video that covers that. And I can actually name them as well. Man, this default Android keyboard is a pain though. I have no idea how to get out of this now. There we go. And it looks like we can just add as many addresses as we like into here, which is great because it means that if you're just wanting to use this as an entirely offline cold wallet, you can actually do that and not ever bother syncing it with your phone. So you could actually just use this as a HODL wallet. Basically, it generates a seed phrase and you make your deposits directly on the device. So that's fantastic. You can't even really do that with a cold card. So that's brilliant. Can we add multiple Bitcoin address accounts on here? No, just one. What do we got in settings? Fingerprint settings. Fingerprint run is registered. Well, that's good. I'm guessing this is standard Android. You can probably add 4. All right, so 5. We can do a maximum of 5, and we can use the fingerprint to sign transactions and to unlock the device. So there you go. Oh my goodness, pattern lock. Ugh, they've just gone standard Android for pattern unlock. So what letters do they let us use for a passphrase? So we can basically use ASCII, anything that's ASCII. Gee, I wonder if it'll let us use some of these other symbols. These are not valid symbols. So let's see what happens. Let's just make it pi. So it always shows the passphrase vault. So passphrase on the Cobo is actually not about plausible deniability. We'll just go back to a blank passphrase, because a blank passphrase is the same as no passphrase. All right, and we're back to the no passphrase wallet. So let's just have a look at system settings, screen brightness, timeout length. We'll just crank that up to 10 minutes for the point of the video. I've avoided doing a review of the Safepal because I really haven't had a lot of positive things to say about it. But the thing that I'm really loving about this Cobo review is that everything about the Safepal that frustrated me in that it requires you to fully trust the vendor of it is not true of the Cobo. There is a completely different design philosophy at play here in the Cobo Vault versus the Safepal. And look, if you're happy to totally trust the company to be doing the right thing and to be competently doing it, the Safepal's fine. But I love the fact that the Cobo Vault has been deliberately designed to make it easy to run in a trust minimized way without being some sort of hardcore hacker. This is fantastic. Cobo have also open sourced their hardware in that they actually have the schematic that you can view. And as much as they don't share the schematic and development board, datasheet, or any of these other things from the secure element vendor, you can actually contact them to get that. And they've also got the bill of materials. All the components are there, even just the basic analog electronics, it's all there. And they've even broken it up for you. So backup battery part, all the bits in there. Fingerprint reader, the whole shebang. Very good. There you go. They've got the schematic. Main MCUs inside. Let's update this firmware. Alright, so I'll just fingerprint unlock. Update is now available because I've got the memory card in there with it on there. I do love the fingerprint unlock. It is very convenient, even though it's not super duper secure. Now, here's what's very interesting. So this is, that's interesting. So we can use PSBT files on the memory card, just like a cold card. That's fantastic. So what we can do is we can actually hit these 3 dots and say create a watch-only wallet in Electrum. So we can show the public key, the XPub. That's fantastic. So what we'll do, so we're going to say standard wallet. So you just follow the instructions. Master key. Now we'll scan it. Is it going to scan it? There we go. Next. Oh, this is beautiful. No. Okay, so we've actually now got the watch-only wallet on Electrum. This is fantastic. So no partner app required. All right, so if we say preview and show the QR code, the question is this going to let us scan that? Oh my goodness. There it is. Holy cow. So we've got an Electrum wallet, we've got the input, we've got the outputs, sign. Oh, this is amazing. This is everything I've ever wanted in something like this. This does everything this does not do. And so now we can just come back to Electrum. We can just load the transaction. Bam. And there it is. Wow, this is fantastic. Broadcast. Done. And there you go. The really cool thing about this actually is that not only works with Electrum on your PC, but also will work with Electrum on your phone. So we can show the master public key. We can create a standard wallet here on the phone. Bam. And there we go. And I can see the transaction here on the phone as well, all the transactions I just saw. That's great. So we can actually send and receive still in a mobile only environment using Electrum on our smartphone. So I think I pretty much put it through its paces. So we've sent crypto. Actually, I haven't even used the default app. So let's give that a quick go. So you can receive with multiple addresses, but it doesn't increment it by default. But anyway, so it is letting us send unconfirmed, which is nice. So that's the information. Okay. So now we scan. So this is the Cobo Vault QR. And we can see the details of the transaction there, confirming that they look right. So we can say sign. Sign with the fingerprint. There is the transaction. So we'll just scan that back on our phone. Maybe. There we go, done. We can save that to our address book if we want, but we won't. And we can see that's appeared on the chain over there on Electrum. So there we go, pretty straightforward. This default app is very strange in that it doesn't support multiple accounts. It seems to basically treat each address within an account as though it's actually a separate account, in that you have to manually choose where you want the source of funds to come from. Alright, so we've looked at basically all the setup and unboxing, and I'll just quickly run through some thoughts on the device. One of the things that becomes very apparent very quickly with the Cobo Vault is essentially a stripped down Android device. But unlike devices like the Ellipal, it's actually much more than that, in that it has a secure element also bundled in there in the package as well. They're not simply using the secure enclave on the microcontroller that is running Android. The best way to understand this is, instead of it simply being just like running a software wallet on an old phone that you keep offline forever, it's kind of like having a permanently offline PC that you run your wallet software on, like Electrum, but that you also permanently have something like a Ledger Nano or a Trezor connected to that offline PC that stores the private keys. So who is this for? Well, I think the Cobo Vault is useful for two specific groups of people. Firstly, it would be newbies, in that this device is a lot like something like a Safepal or even a Ledger Nano X, in that if you just download their mobile app and if you just use all of the standard functions of the device, it's very easy to use. The Cobo Vault, even more so than the Ledger Nano X, really simplifies the user experience. That means you can only do things like have one account per crypto and all of that kind of thing. So very simplified wallet interface, easy to understand for newbies. The other sort of people the Cobo Vault is for are enthusiasts, people who will take the Cobo Vault and then never touch any of their software ever. Will run the Bitcoin only firmware and to use this purely with Electrum in offline signing mode. And literally within 24 hours of me recording this, a new firmware update released, which also added support for Wasabi and for Bluewallet, supporting PSBT on Wasabi, and promising that we're going to get multi-sig PSBT in the next firmware release. So just really impressed with how this is going for the Bitcoin only firmware. And the other thing to note is when you load up the Bitcoin only firmware, you actually get access to a second account. So you can have one account for native SegWit to use with things like Wasabi, and you can also have a second account, which is just the sort of pay to script hash sort of standard SegWit accounts. So what's to like about the Cobo Vault? Well, basically, it is very easy to use trustlessly. So it's open source, both the hardware and the software now. The only thing that's not open source is some of the lower level functions on Secure Element, but if you go into their GitHub, you'll see that they've got the source code now for everything. They've got full schematics, bill of materials, the whole shebang that you can get. There's a sense in which the Cobo Vault is sort of more open source than, say, a Ledger Nano, but less open source than, say, a Trezor or a Cold Card. But the key thing here is that, like the Cold Card, the Cobo Vault actually allows you to use it in a much more trust minimized sort of way, in that you never have to use or touch any of the software that the vendor produces, use any of their drivers or anything like that. That's a huge plus. It's actually something that I went and added onto my feature comparison page, which is why things like the Cold Card and the Cobo Vault score higher now on security than some of these other devices where you are required to use the vendor provider software for their operation, and that's basically unavoidable. The other thing I like about the Cobo Vault in terms of its noob friendliness is that it sort of has a lot of the safety features and good practice kind of baked in. It actually provides a lot of fairly detailed instructions and all of that sort of stuff just on the screen as you go. The other thing with the Cobo Vault now is they've dropped the price for this version, so it no longer costs, 3 or 4 times as much as a Ledger Nano or a Trezor, definitely helping to make it a much more compelling alternative. The Cobo Vault actually allows you to get a very similar level of functionality to a Cold Card with a much, much easier to use package, and one that you can just use on your phone. And if you're running on Android, you can just run Electrum on there and get the full offline air-gapped signing experience without having to juggle micro SD cards, without having to juggle a PC or anything like that, like you have to do with a Cold Card. So if you're someone who wants to store a portion of your Bitcoin stash, like totally offline, totally air-gapped, never ever touches the internet or any other software ever, but you maybe don't have the confidence to use something like a Cold Card, or you don't have a PC, you want to be able to manage that just on your phone, then it seems to me the Cobo Vault is just about the only device in the market that can do that. And if you decide this wallet would be a good fit for your needs and you want to help me out in the process, I've got an affiliate link in the description. What's missing? One of the things I found a bit limiting was it only supports one account per cryptocurrency. It also has some other minor quibbles in that it doesn't support things like cash address for Bitcoin Cash or the M address format for things like Litecoin. It just uses standard Bitcoin style SegWit addresses, which means that not every Litecoin wallet will happily accept the receive addresses that it produces unless you go using an address converter. Thanks for watching, I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.